Hey everybody, welcome to another Wednesday's Bite Shark Scrapping video. Well, the place that I get my regular deliveries from ended up with over a ton of PC towers for me, but they were all in a cage that was too big to fit in the back of the truck. So we threw about 900 pounds or so in the back of the Sharkmobile, and now I have to go on back and get the rest, in a few days or so after they get done palletizing them. Now these are a tad bit newer than what we're used to getting, so we'll do a change up today, and instead of looking at one of the golden oldies, we're going to look at a newer, older PC, if that makes any sense. These are becoming a little more prevalent. These are Dells. They were at schools. So you may be coming across these, and I thought we would just take a minute to go through one of these because there are some little tricks that can help save you some time. All right, so the first thing is these two screws here have to come out. They hold the power supply in. And then once you get those off, you just pull that latch out of the way. This side will open up. The slot card is not screwed in. You just pull this tab up like that, and then the slot card comes out. Got to give it a little wiggle. Now, this particular graphics card is pretty easy to take apart if you have a small enough screwdriver. These screws are pretty tiny, but a jeweler screwdriver set is definitely a good thing to have if you are into e-waste scrapping. And they're pretty cheap. You can find them all over eBay. Now you have a slot card here, flip chip, BGAs, an oscillator, the gold fingers, but I'm just throwing those in with my, I'm trying to throw them in with my PCI slot cards, gold finger cards. Again, if you're selling this to board sort, you want to take this bracket off to get your maximum value. Alrighty, now this ribbon wire here, just give it a tug on that end, and then we unscrew right there. Now if you give this a little pull, you'll see it kind of goes back a little bit, and then you can pull that up out of the way. That screw should come off pretty easy. Piece of metal, ribbon wire. I'm throwing these in with the low grades because there really isn't much on them other than some connectors. Trash. Get power connector undone there. Disconnect the CD-ROM. Now the way this CD-ROM comes out is this blue tab. You pull up on that, push on the face, and the CD-ROM comes back, and then it'll lift straight up. The hard drive, similar kind of thing, but for now we just disconnect the cables to the hard drive. We'll get at the hard drive in a minute. You can untwist this to get these SATA cables out of the way. All right, the power supply, you've got this little tab here. You got to push down there and then push the power supply towards the front, and then that'll lift straight up. Now, this cable here to that connector, this one came up real nice and easy, but sometimes it's buried underneath the board, in which case you just cut it to release the power supply. Get these RAM sticks. I have found everything from 1 gigabyte to 8 gigabytes. These are ones, so they're going in there for scrap value. All right, so the next thing I do is remove this heatsink. Screw there, that rotates back and up, and then the aluminum heatsink comes right out. Now before I forget, I want to get these copper tabs. They come off pretty easy. Here we go. So there's a little bit of copper. if you're into that sort of thing. All right, now, in order to get the hard drive, we first have to get this bracket out of the way. So pull up on that again. This bracket will slide back and come up out of the way. Now you've got your hard drive, and you can see that it's locked in place on either side. Now, if you're dexterous enough, you can just squeeze those and slide it back. I need a second hand, so I squeeze those tabs together, slide it back like that. You see that part was latched there. Now it'll lift straight out. On the hard drive, you can see the caddy has, this side is kind of flat, flush up against the hard drive. Over here, there's a little tabs. It makes it much easier to pull it out if you pull on the tab side. This is a Seagate 7200-10, probably something like 80 gigs. That's what I've been finding most of these have been. Yeah, I don't even see. Oh yeah, 80 gigabytes. Torque screws. Yeah, it's a hot one again today. 95 outside, it's about 100 inside the shark cage right now. Hard drive board, hard drive no board. Got the fans going, so that's keeping it somewhat reasonable. All right, now, SATA cables. What I have been doing is cutting off the gold connector end. And then chucking these in with my number 2. Your yard might say that's low-grade wire. So, again, make sure you know which way your yard wants to go. We're going to get the CPU. It's not going to be anything exciting, just a P4 pinless. All right, so that's just going to go in with the pinless. Now, we're making progress towards getting the main board out. I want to show you something about the battery. I know, everybody's like, battery, what's so exciting about the battery? All right, well, first of all, get the battery out of the way. But if you look now, you can see there's a little gold tab there. So for those of you that are into gold recovery, this part is gold plated, as is that part. So, see right there, there's a nice little bit of gold plating. Pull that out. And then right there, that part has also got gold plating. Now it's very thin, it's nothing to get overly excited about, right? But if you're into gold recovery, there's no reason not to pull that off. Now, this fan is going to make it difficult to get the board out, so let's get the fan out of the way. There's a little tab right there that you need to pull away from the side of the computer. And what I've been doing is I just take my thumb and hold that out of the way. I take a flathead here, and that pulls it away from the side of the computer a little bit. Then I can just give it a tug. And the fan is out. Now we're down to screws. So we just work our way around the side. And at this point, you might say, well, wait a minute, it's not coming out. What's going on? There's screws here and here. All right, that was holding that part of the heatsink down. So you need to get those out as well. Now your board will come right out. And I have found the easiest thing to do is once the board is loose, push it over to one side, rotate it like that. Now you've got your green small or metal socket. Depending upon your yard, you may have to remove this heatsink. There's a flip chip underneath of that. You know, if you choose to depopulate, well, this is a classic motherboard, right? You've got gold cornered BGA, toroids, MLCCs, oscillator, ICs, MLCCs, flat pack. Now, I do not depopulate. I'm just selling these to my local yard because the price difference between what my local yard is paying me now versus the cost to ship it to board sort, I actually make more money with my local yard. And we just throw the steel back into the frame. A couple of different types of CD-ROMs that have been in here, and the major difference is the size of the screw. So this one is a little bit bigger screws. Some of them are smaller and I have to use the small bit driver. Come on, you. Get out of there. Now, that board, you want to get that wire out of the socket because there's probably going to be some gold on that really cheap ribbon wire, but there's probably going to be a little bit of gold right there. Trim that off. However close you want to get. And then right there you have a brass spindle. That comes out pretty easy. Pop it off of that end. Push the reader head out of the way and then pull it out of the other. Now, you might go after that motor there and that motor there if you choose to, and a third motor there. I'm not spending my time on those motors. They're not worth it to me. If you are a hobbyist, it makes sense to go after every little thing that you can. All right, then we can close this back up. You got two holes there line up with those two nubs. Oh, this blue thing, push that back down again so it'll close up properly. There you go. It's ready to go to the shred pile. Power supply, just a little bit annoying. There's one or two wire wraps there, sort of keeping stuff together, and this little piece of tape sort of keeping stuff together. I cut the wires because I get paid really well for my number 2, and it's worth the cost difference. The yard that buys my power supplies will buy them with or without wire, different with a different price. But I get paid so much for the wire by the other yard that it makes sense for me to cut the wire off. Okay, this fan, we're going to cut that just a little bit to make it easier to get the fan out of this bracket. Once that's out of the way, we cut the support arms holding the fan into the frame. Now that wire sometimes pulls out real easy, sometimes you need to give it a little tug. I have found that when you break off the blades, if you put the dirty side up towards you, they tend to break a little easier. It's not always the case, but frequently that seems to work the best. Okay, so that's a real quick scrap on that Dell. I hope you enjoyed it. As you can see, I got a lot of them to get through, so I'm going to be banging through these. We'll see you all on the next one.